is certainly entitled to their own opinions. Critiquing such opinions does not make one entitled, however. You see, I know what it's like to sit where you sit. I know what it's like to be personally and publicly attacked. Both political spectrums did that to me, as a matter of fact. It's not easy to sit there and bite your tongue, not be allowed to defend yourself or even respond. It's still unfortunate, however. Comfortable stating so, what at times can be an intimidating environment. I'd also like to take a moment to thank this community who is overall supportive of HCS. This includes the university. You know how much that community loves me, so this might actually hold some weight coming from me. Small schools are suffering statewide, and HCS is incredibly fortunate to have one of the few, if not only, private colleges that financially contributes to their local public school. Additionally, though they likely could very easily take many of their affiliated properties off the tax roll, they don't, and though this is widely unknown, it's appreciated. I hope we're aware of how thankful the HCS community is of their support, and not just fiscally speaking. They do a lot of other stuff for this rural community. HCS and the university would each struggle without their mutual support. Moving on, this isn't all to say that there isn't room for improvement at HCS. Of course there is. You're all aware of my criticisms, and I hope you respect the manner in which I've always presented them to you. But making a better school district is about building bridges, not tearing them down. Every school faces similar and unique challenges. Hamilton is no different. As far as this school year, I look forward to the budget process. I'm hopeful that the state will fund HCS appropriately, and I encourage you to hold numerous budget coffees where the public is able to fully grasp and understand the challenges, implications, and importance of the school budget. I hope others will join me in their own ways to advocate for the state for fair funding. So moving forward, keep on moving on. You have my support and respect. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else at this time? I will say that the sound has not been working on the live feed. I do think that we have it fixed. But for those that are watching live feed, if it is not fixed, please let us know so we can keep adjusting it. And we're sorry for the technical difficulties. We will move on to new business. This is our favorite part of the meeting when we have these moments. I need a motion to approve the appointment of Elizabeth Woodamere as a tenured world language teacher effective March 15th, following a successful completion of the probationary period as recommended by the secondary principal and the superintendent.
I'll move.
I'll second. Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. With that, we'll pause for a moment. Congratulations. And on behalf of the school district and the board, we have something for you.
We should have said
Yeah.
we instead of
And we need a picture, of course. Cake. I think we're on.
Always took like
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We will move on to the Committee on Special Education and Preschool Education. I need a motion to approve the recommendation of the Committees on Special Education and Preschool Special Education.
A move.
Discussion would be an executive session, excuse me. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to accept the following monetary donations with sincere appreciation and to increase the budget by these amounts as recommended by the business manager and superintendent. Hello?
A second.
Discussion? Thank you so much for your continuous support.
Thanks.
Agreed? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that moves us to our information and correspondence. And we will move right along to the superintendent's report.
Yeah, I'd like to start, I know Lena is here, she's not expecting this, but since how she's here, I'd like to recognize Lena Harnick, who was awarded a Gold Key Award for her portfolio work in the Scholastic Art Competition, which is a huge competition and a wonderful accomplishment. So Lena, thank you for your hard work and determination, and well done. We are very proud of you, so congratulations. Her artwork can be seen on the TV, which is outside the main office, and will be on the message center as well. So, great work.
Amazing, great.
Yeah, really good job. Yep. A couple other things. Jody has been working with the NYSBA Policy Audit Service. As you know, we're in an audit with our policies. We are scheduled to receive the first section of our manual the week of January 10th. So that'll be sections 1,000. Yep.
This week,
Yeah, this one.
January 10th?
January 10th,
So anytime.
right? Yep. Haven't received it yet, but supposedly this week.
It's been cold.
Some state updates. The legislative session has officially begun with both the Senate and Assembly reporting. They're in session. We'll see what bills and proposals they put forth. I know Jen is actively involved with that, so stay tuned on that. There's an amendment to the school temperature bill. Governor Hochul signed legislation relating to action schools must take when temperatures reach certain thresholds in educational and support services spaces. As a condition of signing the bill into law, the governor indicated it must be amended, and legislation to do so has already been introduced. Instead of prohibiting the occupation of educational and support services spaces if the temperature reaches 88 degrees, as the bill mandated, districts will be required to develop a policy that includes a plan to remove students and staff from these spaces where practical. So the big practical question is what is to be determined going forth. So we'll see how that moves forward.
Bill, sorry, on that, do we have an idea of how, like, our temperature's reaching there? How often it?
We have some rooms that get warm. I don't know if they reach 88. Regents Week, typically it gets hot. September gets hot, and there are pockets. I don't know temperature-wise. I don't know, Matt, maybe you can.
No, I don't. No specific numbers. We don't have any specific data. Typically, by dismissal time is really when it ramps up, but usually for most of the morning, we're at really good shape. We do have newer, really renovated spaces such as this one, that we are in the pool. So, Mark and his team pivoted this past Regents Week to offer exams in places in the pool. So, we do have some flexibility, and I think we'll be able to manage without significant action.
Great, thanks.
The governor had her State of the State today. I'm not going to talk too much about it because Matt will talk a little bit. But included in that, which is wonderful news, she has proposed to fund free school meals, breakfast and lunch, for all districts And that is, will feed approximately 2.7 million students, which is wonderful. So students will no longer have to worry about purchasing breakfast or lunch at school any day. So that's wonderful news. January 30th, as part of the School Safety Task Force training, I will be attending that training in Albany. We'll be talking about facilitated discussions with managing anonymous threats, such as hoax calls, threats received on social media or via email, and notes found on school grounds. So we will have a roundtable discussion and come up with some talking points that we can pass on to our politicians to look at law around school threats. And then lastly, I'd like to just follow up on a concern that was raised during the public comment section from last month's meeting regarding bullying allegations at HCS. Our district takes all allegations of bullying seriously and conducts thorough investigations in accordance with the Dignity for All Students Act and district policies. While we understand that it may be perceived that no action is taken, we want to assure our community that appropriate measures are indeed implemented. However, due to student confidentiality laws, we are unable and will not publicly share specific details about the disciplinary actions or restorative measures that have been taken. When alleged bullying is reported, either in person or through the district's online reporting tool, it is investigated to determine its validity. If confirmed, appropriate consequences are implemented in accordance with our code of conduct, which is available on our website, with a focus on addressing the behavior while fostering accountability, personal growth, and a positive school environment through a restorative lens. With that said, we are committed to continually reviewing and improving our practices to ensure they align with the district's safety and inclusivity standards for all students. To strengthen our approach, I'm collaborating with the Student Superintendent's Advisory Council to gain insight from our student body. The principals will be working with building-level steering teams to identify and address specific concerns at each school, and we'll be partnering with our Inclusivity Committee to ensure equity and inclusion remain at the forefront of our efforts. While our district takes measures to address bullying within our school, combating bullying requires a collective effort from all stakeholders, including families. We work diligently to investigate reports, enforce appropriate consequences to promote accountability and growth. However, we cannot do it alone. We encourage families to reinforce the values of respect, empathy, and appropriate behavior at home to help create a truly supportive and inclusive environment for all of our students. By working together, we can make meaningful strides in addressing bullying and fostering a culture of kindness, understanding, and mutual respect that benefits all students at HCS. That is our goal. Thank you.
Administrative reports.
I think we have one this month.
Anything specific for those? We didn't have any.
No, because of break and just getting back at it. So,
Nothing.
state testing is coming up. Working on that. Just normal day-to-day operations.
Okay. Athletic report? Anything specific?
Athletic teams are doing well. Yep.
And business manager report?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. As Bill mentioned, we did watch the governor's state address today. Bill didn't say much about it. I'm not going to say much about it either, because there really wasn't a lot to it with regard to P-12 education in New York State. The big piece was the universal meal availability through the schools. But there was no mention of anything with regard to foundation aid or as it pertains to the executive proposal of the 25-26 state budget. The governor did allude to hundreds of budget bills that are tied to her initiatives that we would all start seeing tonight. So I know the executive proposal, I think, is due within a week or so. So we anticipate getting information, more specifics on the executive proposal and how it relates to P-12 education and more specifically with us and our stadium runs. And really, everybody everybody's kind of waiting to see if and how the Rockefeller Institute study on foundation aid is going to be considered and implemented in the 25-26 budget. As far as internally here, Bill and I have met with all of our department heads and supervisors, both instructionally and non-instructionally, and had preliminary budget conversations. It's going to be a tough budget cycle, not just for us, but I think for all schools in New York State. One, based on the uncertainty; two, based on just the continued escalation of costs and changes in enrollment and really meeting the needs of all of our students is becoming more and more of a challenge. So it is going to be a challenge. Unfortunately, to this point, we haven't really been able to do a whole lot. Now is when it really starts to move quickly. So I would anticipate by the February board meeting, we'll have our tax cap calculation complete. We'll have a draft budget where we'll have an idea of where we stand, and we'll begin to have more specific conversations both internally and publicly through coffees, board meetings, and the like. So that's pretty much it for the budget update. Quick update on electric buses. I was finally able to connect with Polaro, who's the company that's going to be guiding us through our electrification study. They are waiting on NYSERDA. So if you recall in the fall, NYSERDA expanded the scope of school districts that were eligible for funding to complete these studies. And I think when they did that, they got bogged down, so now they have a backlog. These companies that are doing the work, they are not doing the work until they have everything in order with NYSERDA, aka make sure they get paid. So we're kind of waiting. It's just something that's looming. We're staying on top of things. We're going to keep educating ourselves. We'll utilize these studies and be prepared to move forward. King & King, our architects, will be here at the February meeting to talk about planning for our next capital project. And part of the scope, the large scope of the project, you'll see brings the bus garage into play. And all of that's sort of related to the transition to electric school buses down the road. So the consensus is still that it's happening. Like it or not, it's happening. Ready or not, it's happening. Some of the deadlines that have been created are probably going to be loosened, but they haven't yet, and so we will continue to prepare ourselves. Any questions? I gave you enough to talk about?
No, Bill did it, and now you did it. We don't need to follow. A couple of things there. Thank you, Matt. Excuse my coughing. Student board member time. Colin, it's all you.
So I'd like to start off by saying I'm going to continue working with Mr. Dowsland on the bullying issue, and I'm going to be helping to identify areas in which we as a student body see bullying. Maybe it's in the locker rooms where teachers aren't often present or something like that. I'm going to be helping identify those in a way that maybe the teachers can't see. Secondly, Mr. Arquette brought this up after forum recently, that there's been an increase in these, apps and pages that will pay student athletes to upload videos and such. And I did some digging, and I found out that a lot of them are expanding down in age, so getting all the way down to 13-year-olds, for example. So I was thinking maybe we need to help coaches be aware of that and younger students be aware that in the future they're going to have to start saying no to people asking for their clips, their videos, and offering money.
New York State Public Athletic Association doesn't allow high school athletes to earn money beyond there's a certain threshold. It's not like the NIL with college. So high school athletes are being tempted with these apps, and they can't, otherwise they're going to lose eligibility.
Good to be aware.
Yeah.
A lot of us.
Is your survey that you're going to do among students to talk about bullying, are you giving out an email or just word of mouth? Like how do you plan on
I think I'm actually
Talking to
going to
them?
go talk to them in person this time, and that way I can have a little bit of a deeper conversation rather than just a one-line response.
That's a good idea. But for all different age groups also? Yeah.
We have
That's good, yeah.
our SSAC, our Student Superintendent's Advisory Council meets tomorrow. And
Okay.
that's going to be the format of our discussion.
Kind of just how to implement those
School culture,
conversations.
what we
Yeah.
can do better,
Yep.
just some guiding questions that they can provide feedback from a student perspective on.
Thank you both for doing that.
Steering committee updates.
Steering committee, elementary steering committee, we were just talking through more of the grant that we're going to try to apply for through the Community Foundation to, just to fill a need. We've been talking a lot last year and this year about the cafeteria and how loud it is, and so a lot of discussion has been involving that project. They had a quiet cafeteria club in elementary, and they have been talking about ideas. And I think talked about this before, it's just so loud in there, it's really hard for students to talk and engage, and it just escalates, and it's causing a lot of students also to want to eat in other areas, and there aren't a lot of opportunities for that, like the SEL room or teacher room or the art room or whatever. So we're trying to kind of figure out a way, if it's not involved in the capital project. Some things we talked about were the sound clouds through which are just like acoustical panels that you can hang from the ceiling, that kind of like these that are help to absorb sound. We talked a little bit too about different furniture. We were looking at like round tables that fold up just so that it's smaller groups. So like I don't have to shout to Colin all the way down there. You know, we can just have a smaller group and it would foster kind of lower conversation. So those are just things that we're talking about, and we were talking about also having a joint steering committee meeting with high school and elementary, so that because the cafeteria is used for the entire building, just to see if they're experiencing the same things, or see if high school has any other ideas, because we've been focusing a lot on that and how it pertains to elementary. So trying to get some ideas of maybe what high school would need, and then we can kind of write the application. And we kind of had preliminary conversations with the person at the Community Foundation. So no, we're not going to cover furniture per se, but you could tie it into kind of, maybe you could tie it into how it actually helps to promote learning in a kind of a non-teacher-driven way, just to kind of get kids talking amongst themselves in these non-instructional times. And so still going down that road. What else did I have in here? That was kind of all we talked about at this last meeting. So hopefully we're going to have a meeting together then to talk about this.
I like the joint collaboration because I know it is an issue in high school as
Yeah.
well, with many of them dispersing all over the place.
And then they have different issues too, like in elementary, I do a lot of this in my work about, mixed-use seating, and like high-top tables with 4 stools, probably not appropriate for first graders, but maybe that's something that would be appropriate for high schoolers if they want to have a small conversational group or something. So just hearing different perspectives on that.
Thank you. Secondary met today. It was a really good meeting. We had Bridges in and talked about the offerings that they had and things that we could take advantage of. Some that we already are. So more to come on that. It was more of just an informational meeting for us. There's lots of notes being taken at that meeting, and some really good directions that we can go in using their resources, which would be good.
They offer so much.
And then we've of course talked about meeting with the elementary, and the group is excited about that as well. So. Inclusivity.
We focused on the code of conduct and reviewing that. I think there was some good discussion. I think a lot of the suggestions focused on clarifying parts to make them more, maybe more readable by specific audiences, make sure that they're, I think we talked about making sure there was kind of age-appropriate, audience-appropriate write-ups for each of those, so maybe having those alongside might help at some point. But a lot of feedback, Chris took a lot of the feedback, and he thinks there's some bigger questions to look at, and then he'll bring up with the, bring those back to us next meeting to kind of be able to look at a little more in detail. I think for a lot of people, this is their first kind of look at it. So this will be now our next chance will be to go more in detail and look for especially those things that might be, I think, important to figure out what things are being missed, what things are maybe policies we might be thinking are, innocuous, but actually have, for certain people, might actually cause more problems than help. So.
Thank you. Advocacy update.
So I have been nominated to serve on the NISBA Resolutions Committee, so I have accepted that, so I will be part of that again this year. And then basically just the Capitol Conference is going to be February 7th. It's usually in the morning. It's usually like an 8 to noon thing. I am registered for that. And basically they have some policymakers. They review some NISBA priorities. They talk about advocacy efforts. They break down the executive budget proposal and highlight different things. So it's pretty informative. It's all virtual. So whoever wants to hop on there, even if you kind of just have it playing in the background, I think some of it is really helpful. And then same thing, I was on the State of the State today. Not a whole lot on education. Bill and Matt alluded to some of it. Some of the other things that they did mention were like a mental health first aid in clinics in schools and making sure like all students go through this mental health first aid. She did bring up her Unplug and Play initiatives, but it was a little confusing because she talked about like building more playgrounds and things. So it wasn't, I'd like to see more details on exactly what she's alluding to with that. And then she talked about some funding for protecting our children online and some of the things that they are encountering there. And then this is more for like higher ed, but she also mentioned like free education for ages 25 to 55-year-olds in community colleges. So that could offer other opportunities, more details on that as well. But other than that, there's a lot of entertainment in the beginning.
Oh, exciting.
Almost an hour's worth. So, but we made it through. And that's about it.
Thank you.
Can I share one more thing?
Yeah.
Really quickly? It's a book. It was my holiday reading, and it's called, in case you guys are interested or parents are interested, it's called The Anxious Generation, and how the great rewiring of childhood is causing an epidemic of mental illness. And so it's written by a social psychologist. He was talking about the causes that he believes has caused like adolescent mental health to plummet, kind of starting with Gen Z. And it was very interesting from from my perspective as a parent and also as a board member. It goes into a lot of detail about kind of the reasons for the decline and what we can do. And he ties it a lot to cell phone use and having not just phones themselves, but just having kind of a distraction and access to social media and stuff right in your pocket, but kind of at the same time how play was also decreasing because parents were being a little more vigilant about letting their kids kind of roam free. But he talks a lot about that, but it kind of ties into what you said about the playground, because at the end of the book they have, what can parents do, what can schools do, what can technology companies do. So even if you just want to kind of read this, what can schools do, they're already doing a lot in terms of limiting our going phone free for the day. We have a lot of parameters on our phones. He recommends even more, but he talked a lot about that. He also said to become a playful school, like we need more recess. A lot of kind of natural social emotional learning happens in these kind of parent-involved playtimes, and maybe that's why she's talking about playgrounds, because one of the things that he said also was there are more playgrounds that kind of are allow kids to play in all sorts of different new ways. He also said stuff like having more recess time and also having like after school just play clubs. And I think we were doing a bit of that here with Mr. West on the playgrounds after school. And then there were a couple other things, but it was interesting to look at through the lens of a school board member and also through a parenting lens. But I found it very informative, and it was Anxious Generation, Jonathan Haidt was his name, H-A-I-D-T. And don't be fooled, I listened to most of it on Libby from the library, and then I read the last part. So it's available in both of those.
I was just-
Read it or listen to it.
I was just reading a recent study, and it said the average individual picks up their phone to check it. They might not even be engaging with it, but an average of 205 times a day.
Yeah.
Just to look at it.
205?
205 is the average time.
It's just interesting, like, the parallels that he drew to like when iPhones came out, especially when there wasn't just a flip phone, and you could have all of this technology at your fingertips, and how it really ties into, not just in the United States, but in a lot of, across the world, really, like the decline in mental health issues with adolescents especially. And he's got different recommendations for ages at which you should
I was going to
have
ask,
some
does
of
it go
that.
all the way up, or does it focus a lot on elementary?
No, I mean, he says, no social media till age 16 would be his recommendation, and apparently, I could go on and on, but, when they started making these recommendations at a governmental level, like the government said, age 13 is the age of consent for online media. So you can get a social media account without parental consent at age 13, and he thinks it should be like 16, so even just little things like raising that. But it's very interesting. I recommend it.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you.
There's an SBI legislative forum
Yes.
on the 30th. Jody will sign us up if somebody wants to go, if anybody wants to go along with Bill, but we have been asked.
Registered too.
Okay, we have been asked by Tom Motes, who is reaching out to all the schools, if we would be willing to present a topic. Because our meeting got moved from last week to this week, the topic isn't, the topics got minimized from however many, I don't know how many there was more than 14, and now down to 2. So we can choose from mental health. How do you envision schools addressing the needs of mental health services across the K-12 continuum, and how do the mental health services, how can they be addressed? And then the general municipal building laws, increasing the threshold under the laws to require bids for purchasing of items. So we were supposed to reply to Tom, and I will need to tomorrow morning, if we're willing to take a topic.
I'm willing to speak on mental health unless anyone else wants to do that. I already plan on being there, so.
Yeah, I won't be there.
If you need help with anything district-wise for information, reach out to Bill, and he can help
I'll
give
be
you
there
some,
with Jen.
give you some data
Do you
to
think that
add.
that's an appropriate topic, or do you think there's something else we should speak about?
Of those two, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Will you, since he wrote to you, you were copied, weren't you?
Yes.
Okay, will you reply to him and let him know?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I'm thinking about going, but I think I have something else that night, so I'm just trying to figure out if I can make it work.
Same here.
So thank you for taking that as a topic, and for getting back to Tom, so he knows we're paying attention to him. That does bring us to our second community participation. There is nothing new online at the moment, because it seems like the volume has been working, so thank you for comments for that. But if you have anything online, please type it in now, and anybody that would like to come to the podium may. Seeing nobody taking action at the moment, we will move to a motion to adjourn the meeting. We'll enter an executive session. We will not be coming back for a public session for vote purposes, so we won't come back online. But I need a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss the matters pertaining to the employment history of particular persons, collective negotiation, and details of proposed, current, and pending litigation.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. and we will take a 10-minute recess.
I saw.